Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you are here today. I am Dara. I am the host of this podcast, Designed to Win, Ripple to Wave. Today, I have a very special guest with me, and I'm so glad that she got to join me today. This is Valerie Mukanga, and I am very pleased that she has agreed to come and talk a little bit about her story today. This podcast is about talking about our purpose and where God has called us to be and how we kind of got to where we got to our calling in our life. And so Valerie's agreed to come on and talk about her story a little bit and share with us today. So I'm not going to ask her a lot of questions right up front. We're just going to dive right into it, and I'm going to turn it over to her and kind of let her talk about her story. So Valerie, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me there. It's such a pleasure, such an honor to be invited on your wonderful podcast to be a guest. I truly appreciate that. So I am Dr. Valerie Mukanga. I'm a dentist, a general dentist, and I actually am the CEO and founder of Healing Wings Dental, which is my private dental practice here in Dallas, Texas area. It's more like in Arlington to be precise. So I was asked to talk about my story. How do I get to get to the point where I am at right now? So I'm gonna go not from the very beginning as far as I was born on such a date, but
Right. I don't know if we have enough time for that, but we can always have you come back.
so I am actually from originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. But I was born in Belgium. So my parents went for school in Belgium. My dad was doing his PhD. My mom started doing nursing school there as well in Brussels. And then when my dad finished, which my mom had already finished, we moved back, or they moved back to the Congo. At the time, it was called Zaire. And so I'm almost 8 years old at that point. And so I now am, introduced to the African context. And I was in elementary school. I finished elementary school, went to middle high, went to high school, and finished high school in Kinshasa, the Democratic Republic of Congo, capital city. So as soon as I finished there, we have like a test that we have to do. It's similar maybe to the SAT or something like that, but it's more like something that's ordered by the state. And so we did that, and I didn't even wait for the result. Like, I believe 11 days, 10 or 11 days after that, I'm on my way to the US. My parents wanted me to be sent to the US because at the time there's a lot of political unrest. And so now an academic year that's supposed to take so many months, like 2 semesters, instead of it being a year, some of my friends, are taking maybe like 14 months, almost 2 years, for some
Wow.
academic years. So seeming that my older brother had already started school in the US and was actually done at this time. He had finished with his bachelor degree. I am now coming here, and they sent me to a place where I knew no one. Because when I say, being from DRC, or the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in short, DRC, we speak French there. So we do learn, English in high school. And it's starting in middle high, we start learning English, but we are able to read well, but not like converse as I am conversing with you right now. So it'll be very choppy. And so my parents sent me first to the University of South Carolina in Columbia to go and study English. And on purpose, they sent me to a place where none of my family members were. Because remember, I told you that my brother was already here. He had finished with
Mhm.
his bachelor degree, and so they sent me to a city where I was going to be by myself. That ends up to be super great because at that point, I am shy. I'm not this talkative person as I am right now. The US opened me up because it's either sink or swim, right? You're on your own. you now have to talk to people that you don't know. You now have to ask questions, where do I go here? What do I do? And all of that. So they sent me to this program to be alone. And it's a ESL, so English as a second language program.
Mhm.
And I start learning English there. And because I had a, fairly good background, it didn't take me too long to actually get to the point where I'm actually able to communicate in writing and speaking in English. And I mean, I was very shy, as I say, I remember, and I love to tell people this, but when I first got here, I was like, okay, so at the school, we have a cafeteria. Burger King is there, and I'm always and forever asking for a number one. Don't give me a number two. It's a Whopper with a drink and fries. Okay. We're not going to try to be adventurous. That's all. So I gained a whole lot of weight. I gained a whole lot of weight. And that's just because not knowing the language very well, being shy. I'm just like, I'm safe with number one. Okay. So yeah. But anyway, fast forward. Um, I now finished the program. It took me 7 months, and I was done with that program. And now I had to start going to start my bachelor degree. So I had applied at the University of South Carolina, got accepted, but at the same around the same time when I'm it's like the summer before I start school, my dad gets accepted he gets a job position in the Ivory Coast, which is in West Africa. And now he's working on a program, but at Tulane University, but based
Oh,
in Ivory Coast. So now instead of going to USC, I'm now going to Tulane University in New Orleans because I have free tuition. It's a private school, super expensive, no
right, it is.
tuition. Talk about God's hand there, right? The timing of God, like right on,
Wow.
right at the right time. And so all they helped me, pay for was room and board and,
Wow.
me to eat and things like that, my books, but like tuition was fully covered. And we thank God for that. So I finished after 4 years, I was done. I had a bachelor in biology, and I finished there. But then I was like, I see, initially I wanted to be a physician. I grew up wanting to be a physician. But while I was going in school, a friend and I, my friend Louise and I, we went to see an academic advisor at Tulane. And the one told us, he said, as a foreign student, I don't really encourage you to pursue medicine because it's long, and then financially and all of that, probably try to find something else. So from that point on, I'm like confused. I don't know what to do anymore.
Do. Wow.
I'm like confused. I don't know what I want to do. I want to do exercise and sports science. My dad is like, no, if you do that, I'm not paying. And it's kind of like this thing where God intervenes on your behalf in ways that doesn't even make sense. Because I'm like, why in the world would he say no just like that? I'm not, you would pay for something, but not for that, for something else, but not for exercise and sports science. And there's no reason why. Okay. But I'm stubborn at this point, and I try to take a few classes still, and then I take this one class. It's at the very beginning of me trying to get to this exercise and sports science. And I'm like, no, I don't even like this.
Like this.
So I'm like, thank God that, Papa was like, no, I'm like, okay, I'm going back to my initial biology. And turns out that I love biology, right? So I finished with the biology degree. But still, even after graduating, I'm like, I don't know what to do. So then I decided to take a few classes of um, computer science classes. And because, they're saying that, if you do computer science, you make a lot of money,
Uh,
blowing money and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so I take this one course, Pascal, and I'm like, it's kind of what you call it? It's oh, I forget the term of it, but I passed that class with a B and suffering through it, right? I'm like, oh, I'm like, Okay, so now the next step was to take C. And I'm like, programming. And I'm like, my brain just, nah. I don't get this. My brain does not function like this. Let me just get out of it. And I was already done. So I stopped taking classes. And then, but I was still, going to school, to the library and stuff like that while I was looking for a job because it took me one about a year for me to actually secure a job after getting my bachelor degree. I was trying to work in a lab, a biology type of lab where they did research or did any kind of
Mhm.
experiments, but it was very hard. I couldn't really find openings except for like things like in Boston, Massachusetts, and I was in New Orleans. But yeah, so I was still going to the library and things. I eventually found a job through this temporary agency. I worked at this place called Jeans Can. I met quite a few friends. In fact, one of them I'm still a very good friend with to this day, John Dale. But anyway, I start working in a lab, and what moved me from there, because I knew okay, so as I'm still going to the library, one day I'm like getting out of the library and I want to go home. And so I'm going to there was like a shuttle that would take you, close to where you were or your neighborhood. So I was waiting for the shuttle and I was walking towards the shuttle and I just hear like a distinct voice and it says dentistry. And I'm like, dentistry? Yeah, dentistry. Okay, dentistry. So that's how, crazy enough, I got into this whole idea of becoming a dentist. Okay, so when I said that I wanted to be a physician, I said I wanted to be a doctor because back home we don't make a necessary distinction. A doctor, there's no differentiation between a physician and then other types of doctors like
Mhm. In the medical field.
vets, yeah, in the medical field. Um, so I'm like, okay, so now I have to start studying for the test and procrastination, being distracted with like church programs and such. I'm like so involved at the church whereby it's nothing wrong with that. But when you have a calling, you have to work towards it. Because I came from a church where a lot of people were called in the fivefold ministry, and I was
Mm.
not necessarily called in the fivefold ministry as, in a typical way that you would think. And
So
so, mhm,
So can we talk about that really quick? That's
mhm,
one of the things I wanted to talk about, we kind of talked about ministry and I'm glad you mentioned that because you can be super involved in the church and do activities in the church and think this is where my calling is because I feel called to do ministry, but ministry can be many different things. And we talked about that a little bit. And I think that's what you're kind of starting to lean into. But how did you know that you weren't, even though you were really involved with the church, that
mhm.
this was not your calling, so to speak, or your ministry?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna put my leg.
No, that's fine.
Um, I knew that I was called to be a dentist because I heard that voice
Voice.
says dentistry. And I knew that because as a Christian, God speaks to you and you can recognize his voice. The Bible says
Mhm.
that,
Thank you.
I'm the shepherd and my sheep hear
They
my
my
voice.
voice. They know my voice. They
And they will
recognize
not
my
follow another. So I knew that, I was to become a dentist. But what I was doing was, I mean, okay, I was involved in a prayer meeting of some sorts in my church. There were like prayer going on for different groups almost like every day. So on Monday, my brother had a Bible study for young adults in my house. On Tuesday, I was going to my friend's women Bible study. On Wednesday, and this is all after work. On Wednesday, we had Bible study at church. I was there. Thursday, I didn't have anything. On Friday, my brother had a Bible study for the youth in my house. No, 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 that was Saturday. On Friday, I was somewhere else. I can't remember. And then on Sunday, we had service in the morning and service in the evening. And I was there. you know? And so I was not like truly investing time into, studying for the test I had to pass to be admitted to dental school. And mind you, it was maybe around 2000, 2001 that I heard that, but it's in 2006 that I finally went to school.
Oh, wow.
It was a long time. It was a long time. But I remember vividly one day my dad said, but Valerie, like, if you want to study and pass this test, he's a professor at the university in Kinshasa in Kinshasa. And he says, if you want to study and pass your test, you have to schedule the test. Because if you don't schedule the test, you will be studying, but you don't have an end goal.
Mhm.
If you actually schedule the test, and suppose you're not ready by the time, you can always reschedule it. But at least
Right.
okay, I'm giving myself 3 months, I'm going to study.
Mhm.
And then, if you see that it's maybe like a month, you need more time, you can do that. But at least you're not studying aimlessly as I was doing. And so
That's so
that's what
good.
I did. And that worked. That worked great. And I was finally ready for my test. And but when we were talking about the fivefold ministry, you wanted me to kind of like talk about that. And with that, so you can in the fivefold, what we call or define as fivefold ministry is you can either be an apostle, a prophet, or a teacher, or a pastor, or an evangelist.
Right.
And so from what I knew at the time, I'm not called to be any of that, right? Even though there are some people who have dual calling, whereby they will work in what we call the marketplace, meaning just your regular life as whatever you are, and also maybe a pastor or something else, and kind of merge the two. So that's why I said, at the time, I didn't know to be that, but I knew that
Mhm.
I was supposed to be a doctor. So then I studied for the test. The first time I did pass the test, but I didn't like my score. And I
Uh-oh.
did apply, but no, I did not apply yet. I didn't like my score. So I decided to take the test again. And then when I took the test again, I did way better, but I still didn't like my score. I was like, no. And so initially, even the first time, the University of Tennessee contacted me and they said, if you want to apply, they asked me to apply to the school, but I was like, no, I don't like my score, so I'm going to study again. And I passed the test again. And because I didn't like my score again, now my spiritual dad comes to me and he says, no, I feel from the Lord that you just need to apply from that. That test is good. And you're just going to apply like that. So I did apply. And I applied to so many schools and I did not get accepted. That was the first time because I applied twice. So the second time when I applied, um, I I had so at this point, like you have Hurricane Katrina that moved us
Mhm.
from New Orleans to Dallas, Texas. And so
Okay.
even that, with that too, it's like I went to sleep. I didn't want to evacuate because I had some friends that were at my place on vacation. And so I'm like, where are we going? I went to sleep and then I felt in my heart Dallas. And I'm like, okay. So I told them, okay, I just feel in my heart to move to Dallas, but I don't know anyone there. Thank God one of my friends, who is actually my spiritual dad, knew somebody. So we packed up, we moved to Dallas, but shortly, like maybe a few minutes, maybe like 30 minutes before we leave, one of my friends calls me and she's like, Valerie, what are you doing? And I'm like, we're going to Dallas. She's like, I don't know where to go. I'm like, you want to come with us? She's like, yes. So we we leave. There's four people in the car. We go. It's in the middle of the night. So we pass the traffic. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go visit, the church, Potter's house, and it's gonna be great. Then we're gonna go home. And this is all because maybe a few years prior, we had evacuated For a distance of 2 hours, it took us 17 hours to get to Lafayette, Texas, and nothing happened. Nothing major happened. So at this point, nobody wants to leave, but I heard to leave,
Yeah.
and left. So anyway, forwarding again. Um, I have now applied, and one of my friends that I had from New Orleans calls me, and she's like, Valerie, so the University of Tennessee is actually extending the application for people who want to apply to the dental school. And they're saying that for the people who went through Katrina, they're extending this. So try to
Oh, wow.
hurry up and apply. I'm like, okay. So I called the school. I get Dr. Coleman, and Dr. Coleman passed at this point. Right now, he's passed while I was in school, but he tells me, he's like, yes, we have extended. This was like maybe like the weekend before the cutoff time. And so he's like, yes, we have extended, but you have to make sure that you send in your application right on time. Otherwise, you're not going to make it in. Are you hearing what I'm saying? He's talking like a father, very adamant. And I'm like, yes, but I was already, because I had already written my statement. I just need to, adjust it so that, it would reflect what it would be like to be accepted to UT, or University of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do that. I send it to them. I go to the interview. The interview goes well. I had gone with my spiritual dad also there. And then the interview went well, except for I had like a white shirt. I was drinking this grape juice and it fell on my shirt before the interview. But
Oh my
other than that, I was asking the great question. They actually did notice me, but then when it came to having the news or the acceptance, I was placed on a waiting list. And so
God.
I was on a waiting list, and I said, okay. And I was not like the first on the waiting list. I was maybe like number 6 or something on the waiting list.
Oh,
And so one day, I'm now working in Dallas area, and as I'm working there, as I'm working that day, I decided I called in and I said, I'm gonna be late. So I just was feeling some sort of way. I was just tired, and you know, yeah, I was just tired, and so I was just at home, and I get a phone call from the University of Tennessee. So I pick up the phone, and then it's Dr. Coleman on the phone, and he's like, "Hi, can I speak to Valerie?" This is she. And then he's like, "Okay, I wanted to know if you're still interested in getting accepted to our program." And I say, "Yes, I'm still interested." Okay, well, great news, because you have been accepted. We have a space for you. Would you like to say yes to the space, whatever? And I said, yes, absolutely. And so he tells me what to do and all that. And I'm like staying calm. Like, I wasn't, super excited. I finished getting all the information. And as soon as I hung up the phone, I was like, oh my God, yes. I was so excited. And, that's how I got accepted to dental school. And we moved in, passed the program. I even, during the program, there was a semester that was so hard. So I repeated the semester. That was another like situation that was a situation I had never experienced before. So I went into like a depression and, a mini
wow.
depression mode, because I didn't realize that during the time I was fighting panic attacks. So
Oh, wow.
I didn't know what it was, but anytime I wanted to study, I wasn't able to retain any of the material. Especially the weekend so I was reading, and yes, I was learning to study for my test, but as soon as the weekend before the test, I think we always had like a test on Monday, and it was a compilation test where they would take
Oh, yeah.
all the subject and give you 100 questions. I remember this rheology class, we only had 3 questions. So if you miss one question, you already failed. But that was the situation. But every time it came like the weekend before the Monday, I would read, but it was not reading, meaning like it was not getting into my head. And I just
Mhm.
had this palpitation. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know that it was a condition. So I never sought any help. I never told anyone. And so it was a tough semester. A lot of the people did not do well on some of the classes, but I was the one who ended up not doing well on 4 classes.
Wow.
So, and some people 3 classes, some people 2 classes. So, um, I was the only one who was asked to repeat the course, to repeat the semester. And so
Wow.
repeating the semester meant that you're not going forward. You have to now wait out, the other semester with the
Mhm.
formal class and then wait for the next class. And I'm like, gosh, now, I've never
Yeah.
repeated a year before, and that stigma, but
Yeah.
but yeah, eventually I do well. The class that I was in, the next class, they were good. Like they never made me feel like I was stupid or lesser than,
Yeah.
and I got to study and I did so much better. After that, I was so determined for that to never happen to me again. And that even brought like admiration from my professors. They wrote me very, very good um letters of recommendation because I was going to do like a residency program, which I did in New York. And yes, I graduated. I went to New York, did my residency program for a year, finished that. And then I went back to Dallas. So when I went back to Dallas, I already knew that even working, I would work for some companies before eventually I would open my practice. And so that's exactly what I did. But just, that complacency where, you're just in a place, now you feel comfortable. And so the idea of, now opening my practice had almost been pushed back, just the same way that, trying to go to dental school was kind
Sure.
of like not, forefront. And so one day I'm in the office and there's like some people come from different companies to offer their products or what their
Yeah.
services. So they came to the office and they told me about a conference that was going to happen that I didn't know about, but I also needed to take some continued education courses and I knew that I could take them there. That is the only reason why I signed up to go on that conference. And so I went to the conference and I met some people there. I took my courses, but I met um, a company. It's like a broker company that helps doctors, open up practices. So
Oh,
I got their contact information. They told me, you will be able to get to open a practice. And it's funny because my spiritual father and I discussed, and he was telling me it's time for you to open your practice, your own practice. And I was like, okay, but I can't do it. We got information
mhm.
before that I needed to have like $100,000 in my account to be able to do it. And so I got discouraged. It's like, no, that does not seem like it's the correct information. And so when I went to that conference, what he said was confirmed. I did not need $100,000 dollars in my bank account. In fact, they helped me. This company tried to help me, but eventually I went to another brokerage company. They helped me through the process of opening my practice. And so it went so fast. Like we had started. So it's this, in fact, this is where I am right now. I'm in my practice right now, Healing Wings Dental. And we opened up, I mean, they did the construction, and like 4 months later, we were up and, well, no, 5 months later, we were up and running. Uh,
Wow.
and to get the funds, they connected me to somebody at Bank of America, and funny enough, like the day before my interview with them to finalize everything, I get this letter in the mail that says, we are sorry, you're not qualified for the loan, something like that. And I'm like, how? And I'm so sad. But I'm like, you know what? I'm still going to get ready for the interview. I'm still going to get ready for the interview. And so as I'm getting ready, I'm like, because it's say the interview is at 8 a.m. While I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, let me take a quick shower. It was like maybe 10 minutes before, no, 5 minutes before the interview. I hop in the shower real quick. I get out of the shower and then I put my clothes on. in almost 5 minutes. I don't even know how I did it. And then I get the call. They call me, I pick up. It took about 5 minutes, that phone call. They ask me, do you own a home? I said, yes. A few questions. And there's like, you got it. It's a loan that was $500,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
You see what God did there? And I received a letter the day before. What if I had relied on that letter and be like, well,
Mhm.
they're calling me, they just want to mess with me. I'm not even going to pick up that call. But I
Yeah.
got ready, so quickly, because obviously that affected me to the point that I didn't really get ready as early as I usually get ready. It was almost like an afterthought. Oh God, I have to get ready because somehow I didn't want to take this call without having showered. And so, yeah, that's how, we ended up, as I said, after signing the documents, almost five months after we opened the practice on May 23rd, 2016. And we're still here. It's been 9 years.
Wow. That's amazing. Your whole story. And I love the name of your dental clinic. So how did that come about?
So Healing Wings Dental, remember how I was telling you that we were moved by Katrina, right? And
Right.
so as we moved by Katrina, we come here, and I know that in order to be accepted to a medical program, you have to shadow a dentist, right? So I
Mhm.
had shadowed, but you have to have so many hours. I had shadowed a doctor in New Orleans, but that's the only one I had shadowed. So when I came here, I tried to shadow, and I could not find anyone to say yes. So
Oh
then my
wow.
spiritual dad told me, he said, you know what? If you're trying to get an opportunity somewhere and you can't get an opportunity, you have to create your own opportunity. So that's how we created Healing Wings nonprofit organization. Because he was like,
Oh,
yeah, so he was like, you think about the name, and then I just thought had names flying in my head, and then I went. It was this Bible verse in Malachi that says, "For the Son of Man shall come with healing under his wings." So that's where Healing Wings come from. That the Son of Man will come with healing under his wings. So
that's
as
beautiful.
yeah, so then we opened the nonprofit. We got the 501(c)(3) status. We actually had to close it when I was in school. But it is with that then that I go, and we did an event at my church. There was like a health fair going on, and we went there, and me not knowing much about dentistry, we just had like some toothbrushes, some flat. We had like a poster that would talk about how to take care of your teeth and all that. And thank God they had some dentists there too. So whenever people had like more questions, I would say you can go to the dentist over there and ask the question. But we were just like, we have this board, and we passed out some toothbrushes and things like that. And we took pictures. So during my interview, I had my little folder, and that's what we presented. And Dr. Coleman was at my interview, and he was so impressed because he knew, how prominent my church is around the world. And so he was impressed that somebody who was trying to get to dental school to have, participated in that kind of event. That showed that I really wanted to do that.
Wanted to do.
And so then, when it came to the office and naming it, I just went back to that name and just add dental to it. And
That's
we
beautiful.
see how the Son of Man bring healing under the wings in this office, because it's not just dental. Sometimes people come with their own issues. They talk about it. I remember there was a patient one time that talked about, he had cancer in his throat, and he asked me to pray for him. And when I prayed for him, actually, I felt in my heart that he was going to be okay. And after so many months, maybe about a year or so, he came to us and said that, he was in remission, and he thanked me up to this day, like he's always thanking, and other people with anxiety, they come, and for some reason, God uses us. And while they would come with people initially, eventually they will be so comfortable that they would come on their own and just be healed from that. So, yeah.
That is just awesome. That is amazing to me. And you're using your dental practice to just speak into people's hearts and speak into people's lives. And you're helping them with their dental hygiene, which is super important. But that just that you can feel free in your dental office to not worry about what other people think, or other people think, oh, well, she's a dentist. Why would she do that in the office? But
Mhm.
to take the opportunity that God's given you to pray for people, to speak into their life, to just show God's love to them. That's just, it makes me want to just tear up. That's just all awesome. I don't know. I think I may have shared this with you, but one of my previous jobs in another lifetime, so to speak, was working in a dental office, and I did chairside and I worked in a dental office, but that's such a totally different environment than what you're describing with your dental office. And that's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
And share a little bit about, before we get off today, share a little bit about what you're doing right now with your, because you're doing a ministry online with your dental office, and then what else you're doing. Would you care to share that?
Oh, I would love to. So, this brings me to talk about, you remember how I was telling you that I had to actually, take the test and then adjust
Mhm.
my statement and everything. But my reasons for, because, I couldn't tell them. I was walking, I was going towards the shuttle, and then I just heard this voice like that. That won't really fly, right? Like, really, she nuts? Is she cuckoo? But then I kind of like looked, and I noticed that in my family, lots of people had suffered from dental trauma, or so many people had cavities, and I even also, or some people had, bad breath. Because back home, like a lot of people go to the doctor only to, I'm talking about physicians only
Mhm.
if, they have something wrong with them, because,
Right.
lots of people don't really, can't really afford to go to a doctor. And so when it comes to dentistry, and it's kind of similar with here, we see a lot of people who just go if the tooth is so painful. Now, it's at the point that they have to have a tooth removed. But
Right.
while I was at Tulane University, one day I got the bad news of my uncle who passed away. And he had passed away because he had dental infection and he ended up having a stroke. It is actually, unfortunately, the day that he went to see a doctor that he passed. It was late. He ended up
Wow.
having a stroke, and he did not survive. So that is also one of the things that, sits at my heart. And I feel like, we need to let people know there's a lot of people who don't go to the dentist because they're scared, because they have had experience, they have had a bad, or they had a bad experience. And so, or because of lack of knowledge, they don't think it's that
Right.
serious. Because a lot of people come and they're like, I don't have, if you talk to them and you pass out your card, they're like, oh yeah, I have a sister. One of my sisters, she's hurting, I have her call you. I don't have dental problems. What do you mean? What do you mean you don't have dental problem? You have not had a cleaning. That in itself is a dental problem.
Yeah.
So then, we started, and that's thanks to one of my mentor. I'm in a mentorship group, and they were telling us that you have to be visible. And so that, gets to be married into our purpose, because now, we have to talk to people about dental issues and why it's important and how to avoid something. And obviously, invite them. If they need help, they can come to us. So that's how, that came about. And then I also had a desire that was developed in me to in addition to that, I started posting about once a month, something that we call Optimize Your Life. And with that, I invite different people to talk about ways of optimizing your life. So sometimes it may be like a physician. We've done to where people have talked about diabetes, or you know, they've talked about dental issues as well, or talked
Mhm.
about high blood pressure, autism, different subject, and how, can a parent can take better care of their autistic child, or different things like that.
Mhm.
And but besides that, God had put in my heart um, to have a podcast that is called The Science of Gratitude. And on that, we speak about the beauties, the miracles that He has done, or how God has helped somebody going from a difficult or tough situation and what, he had done. And maybe we pinpoint some lessons that they have learned, or have people be prayed for and things like that. But we really just tell people stories and something that they're grateful for, that they're willing to share. Because you know what, the thing is, when you hear that you have gone through or you're going through a difficult season, and you hear that somebody has overcome something that is, you know, the same thing or similar to
Uh,
what you're going through, it just gives you hope. Say, if they were able to overcome, I can overcome too. And so that's what we started doing. And since May, something about May 22nd is when we started the Science of Gratitude podcast. And we get great outcome. I just pray that God can use it some way, somehow to bless someone.
that's beautiful. You're doing such amazing stuff.
Thank
Just
you.
know that. I mean, I have been watching even your lives that you do about your dental office and the things that you talk about dental care and the optimize yourself, all of it in your podcast. I love what you're doing. I just see God's hand in all that, and just to listen to you and having worked in the dental industry years ago and being one of those people also that was kind of afraid of dentists, just listening to you makes me go, anybody should go see her, because anybody would want to have dental care, because it
Thank
just
you.
really warms your heart. And the authenticity that comes from you is just amazing to me. And that's what I love about you, is because you can tell that you are authentic in your care, your compassion, and what you love to do, and that's really serving the Lord and serving His people. I mean, that's really what you're doing,
Thank you. You
and
know
you're
what? They're like, God is interested in working with you in anything that you are involved in or doing. I'll tell you a quick testimony. One day there's a patient, I'm trying to take out this tooth. It's giving me a hard time. I'm like, okay, okay. And the tooth doesn't want to budge. So I'm like, I make this silent prayer. I'm like, God, send your angel to get me to help me take this tooth out, because the- yeah, please send your angel. I stepped out for maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, come back, same maneuver, boom, the tooth is out. I'm like, thank you, Lord. I knew it was not me. No, I knew it was not me. And so I was like, wow, I was overwhelmed myself, because I'm like, I can involve God at any given point while I'm doing this. And even sometimes when I speak, if I speak to someone, it's usually I feel this strong prompting in my heart, talk to this person. But every morning when I come here, I'm praying for myself, I'm praying for my staff, I'm praying for their families, and I'm praying for my patients. I'm like, Lord, please let it be that one day, in one way or another, they get to know you one day, somehow, because they stepped in this place.
that is
See, the
so
thing is,
beautiful.
I don't have to let people know, you know what, I was praying for you. No, but nobody can prevent me from praying for someone.
That's right. That's
And
right.
that's where, you don't necessarily have to be in the fivefold ministry. You can use what you're doing on a daily basis for God, and He will
That's
do
right.
that with you, through you.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm so glad that you said that, and that's kind of a good note to kind of end on here today, is that it doesn't matter what you do, where you are, what you're doing right now. God can move you into other areas, but where you're at right now, He
Mhm.
can use you in a mighty and a powerful way. Just like you said, I pray over my patients. They may not always hear that, but I'm praying over them. I'm speaking into their life. I'm speaking into the lives of the people that are my employees that work with me.
Mhm.
Just we can do that where we're at. And I think sometimes people don't think they can do anything, but they can. Just even prayer is so powerful. Or
Absolutely.
reaching out to somebody else or planting seeds in their lives wherever they're at, whatever occupation they're in, whatever age they're at also, because I
Mhm.
think kids sometimes don't think that they can do anything, or young adults, but they
Mhm.
can. Even going to
Right.
school they can. So I'm so glad that you shared that, because that is so true. It doesn't matter where you're at or what you do, you can be a voice for God wherever you are. So I'm
Absolutely.
so glad that you came and you joined me today. This has been such a blessing to have you on my podcast today, and
For having
just
me.
just just to share your story and where you've come from and where God's kind of evolved things in your life.
Mhm.
Because going from being living in the Congo to being here in the United States, and just the journey and what you've walked through, and how God kind of brought you into dentistry when it wasn't something that was ever on your radar at
It was
all.
not. No.
It's funny how God does that. He
Yeah.
puts us in places of things you would never think that he would have you do, but
Right.
he can use it in a mighty way if we're obedient into what he calls us to do. And you were obedient in hearing that voice that said
Yes.
dentistry.
Right.
And so, gosh, where would we be today? How many people would not have probably been healed, or been, that man that you prayed over, that he got healed? I mean, God put you where you needed to be. So, well, thank you so much for being here and being with me today, and joining me. And I hope that you can come back and be a guest on my show again. I would love
Oh,
to have you
yes.
back so that we
I
can
would
talk
love
about
to.
a lot.
Thank
Okay.
you so much for
Well,
having me.
thank you. And thank you for joining me today and being with me here on the podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, that it has blessed you mightily. And if it has, please share it with somebody else, because they can probably be blessed as well. So thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.